I have the solution for the biggest problem with these Amazon events. Not only are we checking out the best GPUs for Amazon Prime Big Deals Day, is that really what it's called? That is an absolute mouthful. But we are also able to do 4 things that are more important, arguably far more important than just finding the best deals. We're going to check that the price is actually good for each GPU, and not just deceptively marked up last month to make it look like a good price. Then we are going to check that the prices we find are good compared to other versions of that model over the last 6 months using our historical pricing data, which you can find out how we collect those right here. We will then look at deals from other retailers like Newegg and Best Buy, especially because, embarrassingly for Amazon, Newegg had a lot of the best prices for the July Prime event. Then, most importantly, determine which of these models are a good value compared to something else you could buy, because a well-discounted card doesn't always mean a good value card. If you can buy something more powerful for less, make sure you specifically check out the comment section below, as we will continue to update links throughout the event, and you will always find the best prices down there. But let's start with the top 5 cards from Amazon Big Deals Day. I am just gonna call that October Prime Day, but let's have a look at what Amazon have to offer and see if it's actually compelling. So I have a question. Are you an avid PC enthusiast stuck with that ugly ass Windows watermark ruining your gaming and streaming experience? Well, I have great news for you. Whokeys is a software licensing website dedicated to getting you affordable keys. And the best part is you can get rid of that watermark in a matter of minutes. All you need to do is head down to the video description, click the sponsor link and enjoy an additional 25% off using my coupon code TL20. With PayPal checkout and quick key delivery, all you need to do is hit the Windows key, type activate and paste your key right here to become fully activated. It really is that simple and that cheap. So head down to the video description if that sounds right for you. And thank you Whokeys for sponsoring this video. There is 2 of us working on this at the moment, and my editor is currently checking over other retailers and non-Prime Day deals to see if we can find anything better priced. But right now, we get to run through the 5 best Prime Day GPU deals thus far, before we then see if there are any better prices at Newegg and other online retailers. See if we can find something even cheaper priced by widening our search. Bear in mind that a lot of these models may not have Prime Day specific discounts, at least on our first pass, and you'll need a Prime membership to be able to get the deals. But I'll have a list of other promotions below that can help you out with that too, like 6 months of free Prime membership for students. Absolutely jump on that if you wanted Prime for free. But as this is a 2-day event, we will continue to gather prices throughout, and the pinned comment below will have the most up-to-date prices for each GPU model, regardless of them being a Prime deal or not. Which means my favorite GPU for Prime Day is this. The Power Color Fighter Radeon 6700 XT for $300. Funnily enough, we actually had this exact same GPU at this exact same price for the last Prime Day in July. And I've just noticed something a bit weird. The Canalizer hasn't picked up the previous price of $299.99, which we definitely had. For the 6700 XT in terms of performance, you're looking at fantastic 1080p and decent 1440p experience. I really like that it's a 12GB GPU in terms of memory for less than $300. It really should see its useful lifespan prolonged because of that. Not being an 8GB card kind of frees it up from some of the restrictions that we've been seeing recently. And if we plug this price into our chart, we're looking at 6700 XT for $299.99. That is a fantastic deal. The last time that we saw this at what we call a good price is back in July, and prices have been really increasing since then. I highlighted this recently in our best value GPU series. Prices really have been increasing recently. And this card is a prime example of all performance, no thrills. There is no RGB, no nothing on the card. But if you want pure performance and the best value for it, this is looking like a really strong contender. The next prime big deal that we are looking at is the RTX 4080, which I wouldn't have thought would be a good deal, but for less than $1,000, let's double check that with the Canalizer. Yep, the lowest this model has been is in the $1,000 range back in August. Like I said, prices have really been increasing since then, so to see it return back to this price is really nice. The RTX 4080, you're talking 1080p, 240Hz monitor, mid to high demanding titles, you're going to be able to reach that 240Hz in terms of FPS on this card. For 1440p gameplay, easily mid to high refresh rate monitor. The only problem was its launch price, so I'm extremely happy to see this come down. And at its current price of $989.99, we're talking an extremely good price for this card. It's less than even our lowest target price back in July, which likely would have been the last Amazon Prime video. For this Zotac card specifically, we do have a bit of RGB. Me and my editor are a bit torn about whether this card is good looking. He thinks it looks too much like a Vauxhall Corsa or something similar. Think small cute hatchback, almost the bare minimum requirements of what a car can legally be. So at this price for this card, this is actually a pretty good deal. And brings us on to the third Prime Dig October Prime Day, which is the RTX 3050, coming in at $185.99. This seems to be a really good price for this card. I mean, it's only 8GB, but realistically, you're talking a $180 card. In fact, let's double check that it is a good price with the Camelizer, which seems to think that a really good price for this card is around the $220 range. And I would probably agree, around the 200s, low 200s would be a good price for a 3050. In terms of performance, you're looking at a decent 1080p experience, and it might struggle with some of the more demanding 1440p games. But if you want an entry-level Nvidia card, maybe you can use the CUDA cores, you do content creation, something like that, this could be a really good option. And we'll double check if a 185.99 is a good price for 3050s. 185.99. At that point, that's now become the best deal that we can see for a 3050 over the last 6 months at sub $190. That is pretty great. In terms of what I like about this card specifically, wait, I actually have this card. What a weird thing to realize. As you can imagine, I have quite a few GPUs. This is that card. This is the RTX 3050. One thing that I really like about it is if you are talking small form factor systems, you really don't get much compact than that. It is a bit over 2 slots right here, so if that's a limitation for you, that's definitely something to keep in mind. The fan is also not very quiet, but for $190, that's not bad. Oh, also no RGB, as you can imagine, but it does have a backplate. And number 4 for the Prime Big Deals, Days Deals, Prime Deals is the Sapphire Radeon 7600. This is AMD's current generation RDNA 3 architecture at $255. Now, I know for a fact that that isn't the best price that we've seen for this card, but I think it's rather competitive for this model. For the Camelizer, let's see if it is a good price for this model. Camelizer has it down at, whoa, what happened here? Third party new. Okay, we can't guarantee anything about that, but it looks like this price has been pretty consistent for the last couple days, pretty much all of October it looks like. So it doesn't look like it's had an additional drop for the Prime Day deals, but in terms of performance, you're looking at a really good 1080p card and decent playable 1440p. In fact, one of my recent videos, I checked out the ASRock 7600 and did some gameplay in 1080p and 1440p, and I found that in the games that I played, all of them were set to high apart from Baldur's Gate 1440p. We had to take that down to medium, but otherwise it was a really enjoyable experience and I highly recommend you check out that video. But in terms of 6700s in general, whether this is a good price or not, which I suspect it's a little bit over what we would consider a good price, no, it's not a particularly good deal. I mean, it's not in the red, it is under its MSRP, but realistically we would consider a good deal for this card more in the $240 range. $15 increase, that's not that bad. 5% increase for what are we getting for that? Pretty much a bare minimum card, but Sapphire tend to have a good reputation for AMD. They're one of the board partners that are strictly AMD. But again, it is an 8GB GPU. Whether that's an issue for you, it's kind of up to you, and you can check out this video to figure out if 8GB is enough for you, or if you should really be shopping for a bit more memory with your GPU. And last on the Prime Day deals is this, the Arc A750 Limited Edition 8GB. And I chose this one specifically because it is the Intel Arc version. I like going for the cards that are the default option for that model. In terms of good price for this specific version, let's have a look at the Camelizer. The Camelizer would consider this a good price on Amazon at $10 more than this, which I would probably agree. We have seen it come down to $200, but not for a very long time for this specific model. In terms of performance, you're looking at a great 1080p experience and a really good 1440p experience, but there's an asterisk that comes along with ARC GPUs. Let's just say they're a bit temperamental in some of the older games. There's been huge driver improvements since the launch of this card, but realistically it's not going to be as stable as Nvidia or AMD. But for those of you that want to tinker around with ARC, you've got AV1 encoding on this card for less than $200, and it can be quite an interesting and quite compelling option in certain use cases, so definitely worth considering. You know what? Even Intel's website about it is broken. Image link's broken. This looks fine. Common Intel, just make it better, care a little bit more, and you'll probably do fantastic in the graphics space, but come on, dude. Let's have a look and see if it's a good deal compared to other models, other A750s. Pretty average. This 18999, that's typically the Sparkle card that we find on Newegg. So we haven't seen this one come down to less than $200 for quite some time. So for this specific version, I'd say that's really not that bad a deal. And I'm kind of tempted to pick up one to replace my A750 with a reference version. I'm really tempted actually. But the top 5 GPUs for Prime Day may not be the best value option for any of those models. So let's check in with my editor and see if he has found better prices. That is perfect. Thank you very much, man. So we now have all of the best prices across the internet, which is basically what we do every day to make sure that you guys are getting deals, because there are now 2 GPUs that just got replaced. Being the RX 7600, we managed to find it for $15 less over on Newegg, and the A750 from Intel. And I guarantee this boy is the Sparkle. It absolutely is. For about $10 less than the Intel one, I would probably go for the Intel one. But this one is better value, being about 5% less, but realistically it's not going to perform 5% less than the Intel one. For the 7600, what are we looking at? The ASRock Challenger 7600. Pretty much no bells and whistles, no frills, but if you just want a card to game on, this is probably going to do you really quite well at $240. So what we should do is populate the rest of these with the best value GPUs we can find. Meaning this is what today looks like, and only 3 of these options are Amazon Prime deals, day deals, Prime deals, days discounts. A lot of these end up coming from Newegg. We're talking probably around 40%, 40 to 50%, something like that. Which is kind of embarrassing, seems as it's meant to be Amazon's big holiday right now, so I would have thought that 80% would have been better from Amazon. But a lot of these options look really quite good today. We're seeing the best target price we have seen for a lot of these models. So even though Amazon doesn't seem to be consistently the best price, even in their own marketing days and events, it's looking like they're pretty good days overall, because Newegg seems to pick up a lot of the slack. But now we have the full list of best price GPUs across the internet. Let's find out which ones are the best value and which ones are buy now. What I wanted to do and what I typically recommend is to check out GPU Smart, my website. But I just realized that the graph at the bottom seems to be pulling the wrong fields for GPU performance. This data is right, but the graph doesn't reflect it properly. Rather embarrassing. So I'm going to fix that as soon as I can and revert back to my Excel sheet. Based on today's current prices across the internet, which are largely great prices compared to the last 6 months, the best value option at 1080p is the ARC A750. But the one that I would recommend for budget 1080p gameplay would be the 7600 at around $240. It's second place for value, but as it's current generation AMD, I would expect performance to increase with driver releases, which is why I chose it over the 6600 and the 6650. Nvidia buyers should look at the 12GB 3060 we found for $250. That one is a great price, and the sub $200 3050 if that's outside your budget. For mid-range, I'm going to move into the 1440p data and recommend the 16GB 7800 XT. At $500, it is the best value GPU for your money, while still being able to maintain a high frame rate at 1440p. And it's actually the card that made me swap out my Nvidia GPU to AMD. There's a video coming on that soon. Otherwise, if you do need Nvidia, the 4070 is my recommendation here for the mid-range. In a few years, that 12 gigabytes of memory might show some issues in a select few games, but the 4080 is your next step up in terms of memory at nearly triple the price. And you still have DLSS 3 frame generation with the 4070. For high-end shoppers, the 7900 XT has come down in price, more compelling than the XTX, and the 4080 at its current price is a lot better value than the 4090, which is no surprise there. And I'll have up-to-date links of the best priced GPUs in the comments section below for you throughout the event. Otherwise, if you want a more detailed breakdown of the GPU market, we recently released our latest installment of the Best Value GPU series, for which we uncovered some scary pricing changes recently. Luckily, this event seems to have temporarily corrected it, but I imagine that it's going to pursue getting worse. It's not looking good. Otherwise, guys, share, like, subscribe, they are always appreciated, and I hope you have an amazing day. Discounts.